What is your full name?
Richard Harold Phillips.
What year were you born?
I was born 1934.
And how old are you?
I'm 87.
And how old do you feel?
97.
What were your parents' names?
William Everett Phillips and Vera Caroline Amos Phillips.
Amos with one S or two? Amos with one S or two?
Two.
That means I got it right on here. What was your father's occupation?
Well, to start out, he had no job. That was during the Depression, and I remember him saying he swapped a cow for a pig that had piglets, was fixing to have piglets. And then he got a job in Quitman, which had to hitchhike over there. I think he's making 50 cents or $1 a day. Now, all of that's what I remember. But later he got on with the WPA. A lot of folks call that we piddle around, but folks that needed it, it was a lifesaver.
And is that what he wound up doing, or did he work somewhere
He worked
else?
for the railroad. He finally got a job on the railroad. And I don't know what years, 41, 42, and he worked for the railroad until he retired.
What schools did you attend in Wood County?
New Hope School and Mineola High School.
What was the highest grade taught at New Hope?
Well, I always heard at one time they went through the 11th grade. You could graduate from New Hope High School. But in 1941, the state of Texas went to 12th grade because all schools were 11th grades before then. But they went to 12 grades, which caused us to go from the first to the third grade. We never attended second grade. We skipped that. Everybody in Texas skipped the second grade for that year.
So the highest grade taught while you were at New Hope was 10th grade?
Correct. There was no big deal as far as the grade. That was no different to me. It wasn't.
What did you call the lower grades? First, second, middle school, little school?
I'd say anything 8th grade down.
How old were you when you started the school?
I was 6 years old. Started in 1940.
Do you remember what year you started school? 1940.
1940.
How did you get to school each day?
Bus.
Did your siblings go with you?
Yes, they rode the bus too. I always looked forward to the kids coming home. I was ready to start school like they did.
Where was your school located?
Well, right here at the New Hope Church, we're at about 2 or 3, maybe 4 miles from here down the highway, which 1804 used to be US Highway 80. By the way, I've been to both ends. I've been to the end on the east and the end on the west of Highway 80.
Okay, so it was east of New Hope Church?
Correct.
Which of your siblings attended this school?
Well, you want me to name all of them?
You want them named? Yes.
Well, my oldest sister was Lily. She was born in 1927. Next was my older brother, was Keith. He's born in 29. My sister Jo, born in 1931, was me. And my younger siblings were Donald, Jerry, Ann, Mike, and Beth.
Did they all attend?
They all attend except Beth. She started at school when she was 6 years old, which would be in 1952. She started in Mineola. Never went to New Hope. And I always, when she said, well, she didn't know that, I said, well, if you'd have gone to school at New Hope, you'd know those things.
An auditorium,
Yes.
restrooms,
Outhouse, about 150 yards away.
did they ever have to move the outhouse?
Not while I was going to school. They needed moving. They needed blowing up.
I'm sure somebody blew it up at some point.
Well, it's like those that you go in when you're going to Yellowstone in the park there, out in the middle of nowhere, there'll be a restroom. That's the way they were.
What were the roads like?
Well, the road in front of the school was US Highway 80. It was paved. Now, the country roads were not paved. They were gravel roads. And some of them, when it rained, you better not go that way. You're never going to get up the hill. That's where your vehicle's going to be, stuck in the mud.
Was there ever a tornado at school while you were at school?
No. In fact, in those days, they call it a blue norther, blow up. And the atmosphere would kind of get weird color in them dark clouds over the north. And we were having a storm one night, and I went and asked my mom. I said, are you afraid of this storm? I don't remember exactly how I asked it. She said, no, I'm not afraid of it. I've never been afraid of them since.
So there's no tornadoes, so no school damage. Did your school ever catch on fire? Was there ever a fire?
Never.
What time did school begin each morning?
I don't really remember, but I imagine it was 8 o'clock.
Do you remember some of your teachers?
My first grade teacher was Ms. McClendon. My 5th and 6th grade teacher was Ms. Benny Carlisle. And my 8th grade teacher was Ms. Womack. I don't remember my 7th grade teacher. I don't even remember the 7th grade at all. And my 9th and 10th grade teacher was Mr. Reese. Very nice man.
Did you know any names of the custodians?
Our custodian was Mr. Hooks, Mr. Jep Hooks.
Mr. Jep Hooks.
His name was Jephthah Hooks,
Why do you think you remember Mr. Hooks?
because I helped him in the evening sweep the floors, and he'd give me a nickel. And he drove the bus too, and he drove the bus home, so he let us off the road and we'd walk home now. Me and my sister Jo.
Do you have any funny or interesting stories about your teachers?
No, I'll tell you, when I was young going to school, my mom and dad always told me if you get in trouble at school, you're going to get in trouble at home.
You know, I know a man that told me that when I was going to school.
Yeah. Well,
I know where he got it.
see, sometimes we're pay too much attention to the kids and don't teach them what they need to do, because in the classroom, in my opinion, if you got a good teacher, the good teacher is the same as God. The child only has freedom that the teacher gives him, has no say in the matter. Now maybe that's wrong, but that's the way I see it, and ain't nobody changed my mind
Well,
yet.
that'd be definitely countercultural today.
I know.
What were some of the supplies you had to bring?
Well, I had a big chief tablet and a big pencil. That's basically all I remember.
No fancy calculators, huh?
Yeah. We had a compass and a protractor.
No internet.
No internet.
Who were some of your friends?
Billy Barnett, J.C. Cummel, Kenny Paul Ritchie, Weldon Riddle, Lexter Lee Ashmore, Billy Bob Ritchie, Donald Huffman. I'll consider them friends. I don't know what they consider me. I was pretty much an introvert.
Are any of those friends still living?
I don't think so.
Can you tell us about some of you and your friends' escapades? Did you ever skip school and go swimming or play hooky?
I played hooky, but I didn't go swimming. I never like to go in any place if I'm supposed to be there at 8. I try to get there before 8. I don't go into meetings late. And our bus broke down. We had to walk to school. It's about 3.5, 4 miles. And we never got there on time, so I just go up in the woods and play until the kids came walking back. I'd go out and walk home. I never got in trouble about that, though. Nobody ever mentioned it, in either the school or my parents.
Describe the structure of the school and any outbuildings.
Well, the outbuilding's about 150 yards away.
Was that the outhouse? Was the outhouse 150 yards away?
Yeah.
Well, what do you do if you have to go to the bathroom and it's raining?
Well, you just go. What's the big deal about rain?
Nothing but 150 yards, and if you don't have an umbrella or something, you get soaking wet by the time you come back to class.
Well, if you, normally you hold it if you can stand it. Now, this is the front of the school. All the upper grades were on the left. All the lower grades were on the right. There were a hall.
So if you were looking at the school, upper grades were on the east side of the building, lower grades were on the
Correct.
west side of the building.
That's correct. And there was a hall all the way from the back of that school to the front, clear across the front, and went clear to the back. And there was classrooms on the outer side of that hall. And through the 6th grade on the west side, and then the 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th were on the west side. Auditorium was in the middle.
Did it have a porch?
No. It had a recessed front door, but I don't consider that a porch. Had a store they opened up for once in a while. You could buy pencils and candy.
So going back to Jephthah, if you got a nickel, did you use that nickel to buy candy at the store?
Yes, they called them kits. There was 4 in a package. You get that package for a penny. So if you had a nickel, you could get 5 of those packages, which is 20. You could work on those all day.
And what did a kit taste like?
Well, they're good. I don't know if they still sell them or not. It's kind of peanut butter. They were worth a nickel, I'll tell you that.
Well, thinking about the structure of the school, how did they cool the school? Was there any air conditioning?
No, you raise your windows, that's how you cool.
How did you heat the school?
Every room had a wood stove in it. And it had an outer barrier so you couldn't get to the hot stove without opening a door and going in there. And the janitor would come in and feed the stove when it was neat.
Mr. Hooks.
Mr. Hooks.
Was he responsible for all the cordwood?
No, he wasn't responsible for that. I don't know how they got that. Either the guys cut it and brought it up there and stacked it up, but we had big stacks of wood out in the back.
So you didn't have to help stack the wood, y'all didn't have to help load the...
No, you play on those wood piles.
I was just gonna show him. Is that the kits you're talking about? Some of that?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they still make it, so.
But I'll bet they're not a penny a piece.
No, they're 85 cents now.
But you couldn't get it's hard to get a hold of a nickel.
How large was the school lot, would you say?
Well, it's big enough to hold a legal basketball court and a legal softball and big stacked piles of wood. It's pretty large
Where was the playground?
all around the school. But the big kids stayed on the east side and the little kids stayed on the west side. And
Did they take breaks at the same time? Did y'all have a break in the morning? or anything?
No, we didn't break at the same time. As far as I'm concerned, I don't ever remember being a problem with that because, the bigger kids would police the younger kids. They wouldn't have allowed anything like that to happen, where they're mixing. I remember we used to sword fight with sticks, and my brother got hit in the eye, kinda, and I remember Donald Huffman policed that. Nobody could use them. He saw somebody doing that, he made them stop. Big kids.
Did the school have a swing set or a seesaw or
Yes,
a merry-go-round?
Had a good, solid swing set. You could really go pretty high, except you could get in with your buddy, and you could both pump that swing, and you could get it laying flat out. But somebody run in front of the swing and got hit, common sense would tell you don't run in front of the swing. But anyway, you couldn't do that anymore.
Couldn't swing set it? Couldn't swing anymore? Or you
No,
couldn't swing
could
double?
swing, but you couldn't swing like that.
Did you have a seesaw?
What?
A seesaw.
Yes.
What did you do at recess?
Well, in younger, you just played, whatever. But the older kid played softball, basketball. One time, Newell played basketball at night, had the lights on. But see, basketball is not dribble ball, it's basketball. I saw a high school team one time in the Minneola play. The ball never touched the floor until it went in the hoop. They did it very quickly and very efficiently. They won the game too, by the way.
Do you have any vivid memories as a kid playing on the playground?
Well, there's nothing outstanding, but just playing softball or basketball.
What special programs or parties did the school have at Christmas? Did y'all have a Christmas program?
We had a Christmas tree. I never got anything on the tree, but we had a Christmas tree in the auditorium. Might have sung some songs or something. Big crowd there. There's always a crowd. If the school had something, there wasn't any problem with people showing up. People showed up.
How about Easter? They do any special thing on Easter?
No, but the thing about that is we used to have a preacher would come to the school every once in a while, and all the kids would meet in the auditorium, and he'd present the gospel message in various ways.
Imagine that now. Wouldn't that be cool?
They'd string him up.
Any other holidays or special events? Labor Day, possibly attending the county Labor Day parade or Armistice Day? Y'all have anything of that nature?
No, I don't remember about that, but they had a play every year. Always put on a play every year. And if you'd have known me at that time, you'd say, well, I never could be in a play, because I didn't want to get up before a crowd. I didn't want anybody calling attention to me whatsoever, period. But I always got a part in the play, but that was easy because it's prescribed and you can memorize that. You know what you're supposed to do. So I could do that. Can't remember anything anymore, but I could memorize really well.
How did you celebrate the end of school?
I don't remember celebrating.
Walked out the door, got on the bus and went home?
Pretty much it. Now, in the springtime, the school board would have what they call a stew. Be a big wash pot. They'd cook up a bunch of stew. It was good too, in the springtime. And it just feed the whole school, just kind of get together, community get together.
Did you have any kind of end-of-school activities, food, parent participation?
We used to have Halloween carnival, and never had anything special other than that.
Was there an organization for parents like a PTA?
I think there was. I believe there was.
Was it called PTA, or do you remember?
I don't remember. I don't think my mother ever joined the PTA. She might have. She had too many kids at home she had to take care of.
Did the school ever put on programs for the PTA or for the?
Well, we always had a Christmas program, because I remember being one of the wise men in a bathrobe and a towel around my head.
What sports teams did you have at school?
We had softball and basketball.
And did you play
I did.
both sports?
The first basketball game I was ever in, we went to Caney High School, northwest out of Quitman, and played basketball. I don't know why I went. I was in 8th grade. And this was supposed to be the high school team. But we didn't have a coach. The principal was the coach,
Who was the principal?
Mr. Reed. And somebody said I was supposed to go in. Well, nobody had ever showed me anything. I was totally void of any knowledge of basketball. And so I went up to the school, to the drinking fountain, and he sent some kid up there and said, "You better get out there." They're playing with 4 men. They had other guys. So I went back down there and went in, and I was hooked then. We could have had a pretty good basketball team if we'd have had a coach and had a gymnasium.
So besides, you called it Caney?
That's what we called it.
Besides Caney, do you remember other schools that you may have competed against?
We played softball against Cartwright. They beat the stuffing out of us. We played softball against Fruitvale. And our old softball field had a big oak tree right behind second base. And they knocked that ball in that tree every time. And so when that was over, what we did, we got the encyclopedia. I mean, we weren't so far in the sticks that we didn't understand knowledge. But we got the encyclopedia out and figured out the dimensions of a diamond, and we changed it around from going from north to south, going from west to east on the west side of the school, on the east side of the school, I mean, and tree on the field then. But we didn't have any gloves. We probably could have been pretty good in softball too if we just needed some help, either physically or financially or something, so everybody could have a glove. And
Who would treat your injury if you fell or skinned your knee or your elbow at recess?
I guess the teacher did.
You didn't have a school nurse?
No telephone, no school nurse.
What were some of the rules you had to follow at school?
Well, if you need to go to the bathroom, if the paddle was hanging on a nail on a wall, if it's gone, there's no use asking because somebody's already got it, and you have to wait till they come back. Sometimes they let you go, and sometimes they wouldn't.
You ever get a whipping?
Never did.
Any of your brothers
Never
or sisters?
I don't know. I never been called to the office except one time when I was a junior in Mineola High School. The principal called me to his office And I went through my whole life going down there. I thought I was gonna have a heart attack. And he just wanted to ask me about my sister, something about her. Because I went through my whole life, I hadn't done anything to be called to the office.
So was discipline pretty strict or discipline pretty well enforced?
Well, I don't have any experience with that because I was never a discipline. I wasn't gonna be called to the office, period, ever.
But as far as seeing your friends and relatives or whatever, did discipline seem to be enforced?
I don't remember. I do remember one of my kinfolks was on a bus one time and he smarted off the bus driver and the bus driver slapped the fire out of him. He shut up, did what he's told to do then.
Did your bus driver ever put somebody off the bus?
No.
What was your favorite subject? Lunch?
Well, I don't know. I'm thinking about that. I loved school until the third grade. I never liked it anymore because we had about 4 or 5 teachers. The lady that started out, her husband died, and she didn't come back anymore. And we had people, different ones, fill out. The last was Mr. Ryden. He was a retired man, and he filled out the last part of the school year. But I guess my favorite subject when I started school, later on, I didn't have a favorite subject because I didn't like school, was math, because it had an exact answer. And if you had to write a story, I couldn't figure that out. So
Did you bring a lunch?
sometimes I did.
What would you bring?
Might be a biscuit with some bacon or something like that.
Something left over
Egg.
from breakfast?
Yeah. And sometimes I had light bread and sometimes I didn't.
You ever eat in the cafeteria?
Yes. It was good food too. They had some of the best cookies you ever ate.
Did you have a cafeteria?
Well, I don't know what you'd call it. You go get a lunch tray and you get your lunch and you go back to your room and eat. You didn't have a cafeteria, you had a kitchen that you went in and got your food.
Did you take your tray back to the kitchen?
Yes, when you got through.
So was it an organized type deal or did the teacher just let you come and go as you finished?
Yeah. I mean, it was, back then when the teacher told you to do something, that's what you did. You didn't wander off.
When it came lunchtime, did like your 4th grade class, the teacher say, okay, it's
Well,
lunchtime, and you all go down there,
Yes.
get your trays,
Yes,
come
they
back?
Took turns. There wasn't any confusion in it. It was real orderly.
Did you have when you took your lunch to school, did you have a special container or just a brown bag?
You just brown bag it or roll it up in newspaper.
Would you stick that newspaper in your pocket? Or you just hold on to
No,
it?
you just hold on to it.
And then when you got to
Your
school,
books.
what'd you do with it?
You probably put it in a locker. I don't know, we didn't, seemed like we had places without, where you hang your coat, without doors on them. That's what I remember, but I'm not for sure about that.
I think in today's vernacular, they would have called it a cubby. You had a little cubby where you put your stuff.
Well, you see, in our day, in my day, I don't know how you say it, but just to be, just to the point, kids minded better. They did what the teacher asked. Always one old boy that couldn't get it straight. Half the time that's because he didn't know any better. But everybody was, and to be honest with you, I don't want to say we weren't smarter or we weren't as smart as kids today, but maybe that's not the right word for it. But we weren't as worldly, put it that way. Because kids nowadays, they watch TV, they get on the internet, and these kids now are exposed a lot more. And they weren't smarter, they just had access to things that we didn't have access to. And kids today are so smart. Because I've got grandkids, and some of them are really smart, smarter than I ever was.
What type of awards were given by your teachers? Did your teachers ever give any awards?
I look at those old records and I say, you're on the honor roll. Well, what did that mean? Because I looked and there's people on that honor roll are not honor roll students. I know that for a fact. So that didn't really matter to me. I don't remember even worrying about that.
Okay, what was your daily routine as far as subjects? What do you remember a particular grade, what you had the first hour, the second hour?
No, I couldn't come up with that. I know the teacher in the first grade used flashcards. They'd hold up words that you would try to pronounce, because you learn the sounds, A, E, I, O, and U, and all that kind of stuff. And to be honest with you, my oldest sister, she was 7 years older than me, taught me to read before I started school. And some of these words, flashcards the teacher would hold up. I remember one word in particular. She held up the word nectar. And so she said, anybody know that word? I held up my hand. And she said, well, how did you know what that word is? I said, well, I was by my mother and she was making tea. And I read on the box the word nectar. And I asked her what that word was. She told me. So that's how I know what that word is. It's nectar. I don't know. I didn't think that unusual.
How about recess? Did you know what time recess occurred? You have one before lunch or after lunch?
I think we had one in the morning and one in the afternoon. Now, the big kids, sometimes if they had a hot softball game going, they might extend their lunch period about 30 minutes. And a teacher would allow that sometime. But otherwise, I don't remember the time.
Well, thinking about that time, did you have kids that might be ADD or ADHD where they were hyperactive in class or whatever? Or you didn't see anything of that nature?
Never heard of it.
What school did you attend after leaving New Hope? How did you get to the new school?
A bus. And sometimes these people we knew who commuted to Dallas would pick us up and drop us off at the school, just as a friendly gesture.
Were you still living in New Hope at the time you started attending
Yes.
Mineola?
Yes,
What year did you graduate?
1951.
Thinking about it, you left New Hope and you went to Mineola High and you graduated what year?
1951.
1951. At class reunions, how many of your class that you know of are left?
Well, that's hard to ascertain. Now, we haven't had but about 3 or 4 class reunions that I remember. But there's a lot of folks that's gone on. But I don't know for sure about that. We don't have any communication going on from some kind of organization. But
So do you think in the double digits or you think your class is down into the single digits?
wouldn't be surprised if it's down to single digits. We piddle around, but folks that needed it It was a lifesaver.
And is that what he wound?
I got a job on the railroad, and I don't know what years, 41, 42. And he worked for the railroad until he retired.
What schools?
It's hard to see where it
Houses
was.
are gone. Because in
It's hard
California.
to place it simply because it's all grown up. But it's back there, back off the road. Now it's way down there.
But
Okay.
I bet that's a Dodge. I bet it's a Dodge. So grown. So
So
grown.
where was the schoolhouse?
With Jim, it's hard to tell you where it is. It's back off the road.
Okay.
About in the middle of this. And there was a house over there that the principal lived in. That's one of the perks of being a principal. Didn't make any money, $200 or $300 a month. How'd you like to teach and get $212 a month?
Where was the outhouses?
Way down that way.
Both of them?
Well, they're separated
Right.
about 100 yards,
Where was the playground?
just around the school. If you're visualizing it as an organized deal, it wasn't that way at all. But I wish they'd have kept everything cut back.
Was there a parking lot in front? A little parking lot for the teachers?
No, you just park there at the school.
So it was dirt in front of it?
Yeah, paved parking lot like they have nowadays. Wasn't any such thing. Just parked in front of the school.
Was there a playground behind the school? Or was it on each side?
No, it was on the side.
Is that where where was the softball field?
It's to the east of the school. The deal is,
Oh well.
you'd have had some old timers that can really remember way back.
Yeah.
You want to go look at this marker?
Huh?
You want to go look at this marker?
What does it tell us, anything?
Yeah.
Yeah, I got a
An
big-
ivy grown on it.
We used to do that when we would work out there. We would take our